The great Imperial space station floated silently above the orange deserts of Zorath 9. Its enormous structure gleamed under the sun, with sharp towers and endless corridors stretching like a metal spider in orbit. Ships from distant planets docked daily, and the hum of machinery and chatter of workers never stopped. The Emperor ruled this station with absolute authority, and no one dared to act without his command. Among all this grandeur, a small figure moved quietly through the corridors. Caden, a human janitor, pushed his mop and bucket along the cold metal floor. He had worked here for years, unnoticed by most, except when his cleaning supplies got in someone's way. He did not mind. Caden liked simple work. It kept his mind calm. But today, something unusual caught his attention. Near a storage area filled with old crates, Caden noticed a faint movement. He froze, his heart beating faster. There, hiding between two crates, was a tiny dragon hatchling. Its scales shimmered gold and red, and its eyes were wide with fear. It looked smaller than a loaf of bread, and its wings were too weak to fly. It shivered, hungry and trembling. Caden knelt slowly, careful not to scare the creature. "Hey there," he whispered softly. "You're alone, aren't you?" The hatchling squeaked, a tiny, high-pitched sound. Its ribs showed through its thin skin. Caden's heart ached. He had never seen anything like it. In the Empire, dragons were rare and usually kept by nobles. A small one left alone would not survive. He looked around. The storage area was empty. The nearest guards were several corridors away. Caden knew he could not leave the hatchling here. It would die without food. He scanned the floor for scraps. A few old rations had fallen from the supply crates. He picked them up and placed them carefully near the hatchling. At first, the hatchling did not move. It just stared at Caden. Then cautiously it sniffed the food and began nibbling. Caden smiled, relief flooding him. "There you go, little one. Eat. You need it." For several days, Caden visited the storage area whenever he could. He brought scraps from the cafeteria, small bits of fruit, protein cubes, and even water in a tiny cup. Each day, the hatchling grew stronger. Its scales glimmered brighter, and its wings twitched as it tried to flap. Caden named it Ember because of the faint glow from its scales, like a small ember in a fire. Hiding Ember was not easy. The station was full of workers, officers, and guards. If anyone discovered the hatchling, Caden feared punishment. The Emperor could order the hatchling destroyed if he saw it as a threat. Caden used his janitor skills to move Ember to hidden corners, behind crates and old maintenance ducts. He built a small nest of cloth and padding from discarded materials. Ember seemed to understand. It stayed quiet when Caden left and moved only when he returned. One evening, as Caden cleaned near the storage area, Ember made a small noise, a soft growl of curiosity. Caden crouched beside it. "You're getting braver, huh?" he said. Ember's eyes gleamed. It slowly reached a tiny claw towards Caden's hand. Caden laughed quietly. "Careful. I'm not a threat, I promise." The bond between them grew. Ember began to recognize Caden's steps before he entered the storage area. It chirped softly and wiggled with excitement. Caden noticed small things too. Ember seemed intelligent, watching his movements, sometimes mimicking them. When he moved crates to make space, Ember would nudge them back into place. It was almost as if the hatchling understood what he wanted. But life on the station was not easy. The other workers were curious, and rumors spread quickly. "Did you hear something weird in the storage?" one maintenance worker whispered. Another said, "I saw a small glow near the old crates." Caden felt tension rising. He knew someone might report Ember. If that happened, guards would arrive, and they would not care about the hatchling's life. Caden spent hours thinking of ways to hide Ember better. He modified old ventilation ducts, creating a small passage that led to a more isolated corner of the station. It was cramped, but Ember could move freely and stay hidden. One night, while Caden slept in the small janitor quarters, a loud alarm rang through the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Caden jumped out of bed, grabbing his mop bucket as a shield, though he knew it was useless. The alarms meant trouble. Guards ran past his door, shouting orders. Caden's mind raced. Could they have discovered Ember? He ran to the storage area, heart pounding. Ember was there, but it looked frightened. Its glow was brighter than usual, pulsing with fear. Caden knelt beside it. "Don't worry, I'd stay calm," he whispered. Ember pressed close to him, shivering. Suddenly, a guard appeared at the entrance. "Who's there?" he demanded, weapon in hand. Caden stood slowly. "Just cleaning, sir," he said, trying to sound calm. The guard's eyes narrowed. "Nothing to hide?" Caden shook his head. "Nothing, sir. Just cleaning." He glanced at Ember. The hatchling huddled behind him, almost invisible. The guard grunted and left, muttering to himself about rumors of strange creatures. Caden exhaled. That was too close. He realized he needed a better plan. Ember could not stay hidden forever. The next day, Caden studied the hatchling more carefully. Ember had grown slightly, and its wings had a stronger flap. Its scales glimmered more, and its eyes seemed intelligent, almost human in their curiosity. Caden touched Ember's head gently. "You're special, aren't you?" he said. The hatchling nuzzled his hand in response. Caden began to notice more unusual things. Ember's scales reacted to light and heat. Sometimes, when Ember got excited, small sparks flew from its claws. Once, when Caden accidentally dropped a metal plate, Ember glowed and emitted a small puff of heat, melting the edge of the plate. Caden's eyes widened. "You're more than just a hatchling," he whispered. That evening, as he fed Ember, Caden thought about the Emperor. The ruler of the station was strict and powerful, feared by everyone. If the Emperor learned about Ember, he might see it as dangerous or as a treasure. Caden knew he could not make that decision. He only knew he had to keep Ember safe, at least for now. Over the next few weeks, Caden and Ember grew closer. Ember began to recognize Caden's voice and movements immediately. When Caden walked down the corridors, Ember would chirp softly from its hidden nest, waiting for him. Caden even began talking to Ember about his day, his small dreams, and his simple life. He never expected anyone to listen, but Ember always did. One day, Caden overheard a conversation between two workers. "They say the Emperor is interested in rare creatures again. He wants something unusual." Another replied, "If he finds a hatchling, whoever brings it to him could be rewarded or punished. Depends on how he feels." Caden's stomach tightened. He realized that keeping Ember hidden was only temporary. Soon, someone would notice the hatchling's glow or Ember's unusual powers. He needed a plan, not just to hide Ember, but maybe to protect it if the Emperor himself discovered it. That night, Caden stayed late in the storage area. He built a small secret enclosure for Ember using discarded materials. It was snug and warm, safer than the previous corners. Ember inspected it curiously, then chirped happily, as if approving the new home. Caden sat beside the hatchling, exhausted but content. "Don't worry, Ember. I'll keep you safe. I promise," he said. Ember nuzzled his hand, a tiny glowing pulse spreading warmth through its small body. Caden smiled, feeling a hope he had not felt in years. Little did he know, the Emperor's gaze was already shifting toward the storage areas. Whispers of a rare creature had reached the court. Some nobles were eager to capture it for themselves. But the Emperor, curious and unpredictable, had a reputation for rewarding cleverness and courage in unexpected ways. For now, Caden could only protect Ember, feed it, and hope that his small acts of kindness would not lead to disaster. Ember, the small golden dragon, was growing stronger every day, and the bond between Humyn and hatchling was becoming something remarkable. Above the vast desert planet, the Imperial Station continued its silent orbit. Somewhere in its endless corridors, a small dragon hatchling waited in the shadows, safe for now, and a janitor dreamed of adventures that might one day reach beyond the stars. Days passed quietly, but the station was never truly quiet. Caden continued his work, mopping corridors, emptying trash, and making sure the station remained spotless. Yet, in the hidden corner of the storage area, Ember grew stronger with each passing day. The tiny dragon now moved with more confidence, flapping its wings weakly but persistently, its golden-red scales shimmering like molten metal in the dim light. Caden watched carefully. "You're learning fast," he said one morning as Ember tried to leap from a crate to a stack of supplies. The hatchling tumbled but quickly shook itself and climbed again. Caden chuckled softly. "Not bad. Keep trying, Ember." It wasn't just physical growth that impressed Caden. Ember's intelligence seemed to expand daily. It began mimicking his movements. When Caden swept the floor, Ember would use its claws to push small objects out of the way, almost helping. When he stacked crates, Ember nudged them to make the tower steadier. Caden often laughed at how clever the little dragon was. However, hiding Ember was becoming more difficult. The station staff grew curious. Workers whispered in the corridors. "I saw a strange light near the storage area last night," one said. Another added, "I heard something like a tiny growl." Caden's heart skipped every time he heard such rumors. He knew the secret could not stay hidden forever. One afternoon, Caden overheard a group of workers talking about rare creatures in the Emperor's collection. "The Emperor has a taste for the unusual," one said. "If he finds a hatchling, he'll either reward or punish the finder. It all depends on his mood." Caden swallowed hard. He knew Ember was extraordinary, and the Emperor's curiosity could bring danger. Yet he also knew he could not abandon the hatchling. The bond between them was real, and Ember depended entirely on him. That evening, Caden sat by Ember's nest, feeding it carefully measured portions of protein cubes and fruit. Ember's glow pulsed faintly as it ate. Eyes focused on Caden with an intensity that sometimes made him feel as if the hatchling understood his every thought. "You know," Caden said softly, "if anyone finds you, it won't be easy. But I'll protect you. No matter what," Ember chirped, leaning closer to him, pressing its tiny warm body against his hand. The small gesture filled Caden with determination. Caden began to experiment with Ember's abilities. He noticed that when Ember got excited or frightened, tiny sparks of heat and light flickered from its scales. Once, when a metal tray fell from a high shelf, Ember's tiny wings fluttered, and the heat from its scales warped the tray slightly, melting one edge. Caden's eyes widened. "You're not just a hatchling. You're something special." He realized Ember's abilities could be dangerous if uncontrolled. But they also hinted at potential beyond what anyone expected. Caden decided to teach Ember slowly, carefully. He began simple exercises, lifting small objects, following his movements, and even responding to basic commands. Ember learned quickly, understanding gestures and tones with surprising accuracy. Yet the more Ember learned, the greater the risk of discovery. One afternoon, as Caden guided Ember through a corridor, a curious maintenance worker spotted them. "What is that?" the worker whispered, staring at Ember's glowing scales. Caden froze. Ember hissed softly, instinctively curling behind him. Caden smiled nervously. "Nothing. Just a new cleaning device," he said, hoping the worker would not investigate further. The worker frowned, but eventually moved along, muttering about strange things in the station. Caden exhaled in relief. Caden knew he needed a better hiding place. He began to use his knowledge of the station's old, unused maintenance tunnels. These passages were dark, winding, and rarely checked. Using discarded crates, cloth, and scraps of metal, He built a small enclosure deep inside the tunnel. It was cramped, but Ember had room to move and flap its wings safely. Ember explored the new space curiously. Its glowing scales reflected off the metal walls, casting dancing lights around the enclosure. Caden watched, amazed at how the hatchling adapted so quickly. "You're going to be safe here," he said, patting Ember's head gently. Ember chirped happily in response. One evening, Caden heard a soft knock at the maintenance tunnel's entrance. He froze, heart racing. Guards rarely ventured here. Slowly, he peeked through the shadows. To his surprise, it was Lyra, a young engineer who often worked in the tunnels. She looked curious and concerned. "Caden," she whispered, "I heard strange noises. Are you okay?" Caden thought quickly. He did not want to reveal Ember yet. "Just testing some old equipment," he replied. "It makes noise sometimes." Lyra nodded but seemed unconvinced. "You've been acting strange lately," she said softly. "And the other workers, they say there's something unusual around here." Caden's mind raced. He could not lie forever, but he trusted Lyra more than most. Slowly, he opened the tunnel entrance wider. Ember stepped forward cautiously, its small claws clicking on the metal floor. Lyra gasped quietly. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Ember's scales shimmered brightly, reflecting the dim light. Lyra reached out slowly. Ember tilted its head, studying her before pressing its warm body against her hand. Caden smiled. "See? It's gentle. Very intelligent, too." Lyra nodded, eyes wide with amazement. "It's unlike anything I've ever seen. But won't the Emperor find out?" "That's what worries me," Caden admitted. "We have to be careful. If anyone reports it, I don't know what could happen." Over the next few days, Lyra began helping Caden. She used her engineering skills to improve Ember's enclosure, making it warmer and safer. Together, they studied Ember's abilities. Ember responded to sound and light in ways that seemed almost strategic. It could detect temperature changes, sense vibrations in the station, and even emit small pulses of heat and light that seemed controlled, not accidental. One night, Ember reacted to a sudden movement near the tunnel. Its glow intensified and it hissed softly. Caden looked up, alert. A guard was patrolling nearby, moving closer to their hidden space. Caden grabbed a scrap of cloth and signaled Ember to hide. The hatchling immediately curled behind a crate, its glow dimming. The guard passed, unaware of the tiny dragon. Caden exhaled quietly. "Good job, Ember," he whispered. The hatchling chirped softly, as if understanding the praise. Caden realized that Ember's abilities were both a gift and a risk. The hatchling could defend itself in small ways, but if discovered by the wrong person, it could also bring danger. He knew he had to teach Ember to control its powers carefully, and that meant spending even more time with it. Their bond grew stronger. Ember began following Caden outside the tunnels, cautiously at first. Caden taught it to stay out of sight from most workers, using shadows and unused corridors. Ember learned quickly, flapping its tiny wings silently and moving with surprising stealth. One day, Caden took Ember near the observation deck, a quiet area overlooking the desert planet. Ember perched on his shoulder, eyes wide as it gazed at the endless dunes below. "One day, maybe you'll fly there," Caden said softly. Ember chirped, wings flapping as if agreeing. But even as they shared these moments, Caden knew the Emperor's curiosity was a shadow over their safety. Rumors of a rare creature had reached the court. Some nobles were eager to capture it, while others whispered about the Emperor's fascination with extraordinary beings. The question was not if, but when Ember would be discovered. That night, as Caden fed Ember, he made a silent promise. No matter what happens, Ember, I'll protect you. I'll find a way to keep you safe. You're not alone anymore." Ember leaned against him, warm and glowing softly, as if acknowledging the promise. Little did Caden know, the Emperor had already received the first reports. A faint glow had been seen near the storage tunnels, and the whispers of a strange creature had reached the palace. The Emperor was known for his fascination with rare beings and his unpredictable decisions. What he would do when he saw Ember and Caden's care was a mystery. For now, the Janitor and the dragon hatchling remained hidden, growing stronger together. Ember's intelligence and abilities were slowly revealing themselves, and Caden's patience and cleverness were keeping them safe. The bond between human and dragon was becoming something remarkable, a secret that could change the fate of both. Above the desert planet, the Imperial station continued to float silently, unaware of the extraordinary life growing within its hidden corridors. Ember, the small golden-red dragon, glimmered faintly in the darkness, and Caden, the humble janitor, dreamed of the day when he could reveal the truth to the world and hope it would not bring disaster. The story of Ember and Caden was only beginning, and the challenges ahead would test courage, intelligence, and the unusual power of compassion. The Imperial space station gleamed under the distant suns, its metallic corridors echoing with the steps of workers and guards. Life moved in its usual rhythm, but in the hidden corners, a small golden-red dragon hatchling named Ember was growing rapidly. The bond between Ember and Caden, the janitor who had rescued it, had grown deeper with each day, and now their careful secrecy was about to be tested. It began when a faint glow was noticed by a patrolling officer. Ember, curious and playful, had ventured slightly closer to the storage corridor's opening. Its scales shimmered brightly, reflecting the lights above. The officer froze at the sight of the tiny dragon. He had never seen anything like it. "Is that alive?" he whispered, drawing closer for a better look. Ember hissed softly, backing into the shadows. Caden, who had been nearby, realized instantly that their secret had been compromised. His heart raced. He knew the consequences of discovery could be severe, but he also knew that Ember, though small, could protect itself in subtle ways. Before the officer could act, Ember's tiny body glowed fiercely, sending a warm pulse of heat toward the officer's metal boots. The officer stumbled back, startled, and the creature scurried further into its hiding spot. Caden stepped forward, raising his hands in a calming gesture. "It's harmless," he said, his voice steady despite the rapid beating of his heart. "Just scared." The officer studied Ember, unsure what to do. Finally, he backed away, muttering to himself, "Report this, somehow." He left quickly, leaving Caden and Ember alone. Caden sighed in relief, but he knew it was only a matter of time before someone important, someone with influence, would hear of Ember. That someone was the Emperor. News of a mysterious glowing creature had reached the Emperor's court. He was known for his fascination with rare beings, and his curiosity had been piqued. The Emperor's guards entered the station's central hall, summoning Caden. For a janitor, this was unimaginable. Caden had always worked in silence, unnoticed and unappreciated. Now he walked through the corridors, guided by armored guards, toward a throne that symbolized ultimate authority. The Emperor sat high on his ornate chair, his robes shimmering like a galaxy of stars. His eyes were sharp and intelligent, scanning Caden with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. Around him, courtiers whispered among themselves, eager to witness the encounter. Caden felt a knot of fear tighten in his chest. He knew the laws of the Empire were strict, and hiding a rare creature could have earned him punishment, or worse. "Bring it forward," the Emperor commanded. His voice was calm, yet carried the weight of finality. Caden's mind raced. He looked at Ember, who perched cautiously on his shoulder. The hatchling's scales glowed faintly, reacting to the tension in the room. Caden swallowed and stepped forward, Ember clinging gently to him. "This is Ember," Caden said softly. "I found it weak and starving. I wanted to save it." A silence fell over the hall. Courtiers exchanged surprised glances, and some whispered doubts. Many expected the Emperor to punish the janitor immediately for defying protocol. Instead, the Emperor's eyes narrowed, studying Ember and then Caden. "Interesting," he said finally. "You risked your safety to protect this creature?" Caden nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty, I couldn't let it die." The Emperor leaned forward, his gaze fixed on Ember. The hatchling's small body trembled slightly, but it did not retreat. It regarded the Emperor with intelligent eyes, tilting its head as if understanding the attention. Then, Ember emitted a tiny pulse of heat and light, illuminating the hall with a warm glow. The courtiers gasped. Some stepped back in awe, while others whispered urgently to one another. Ember's abilities were rare and powerful, even for a hatchling. Caden's heart pounded. He did not know what the Emperor would do next, but he stood his ground, refusing to let fear show. The Emperor studied Ember closely. "Most would see this creature as a threat," he said quietly, almost to himself. "Yet here you stand, showing loyalty, care, and intelligence." He turned his gaze back to Caden. "Tell me, Janitor, how did you come to earn its trust?" Caden spoke honestly, describing the small acts of care, the patience, and the quiet moments spent helping Ember grow stronger. "I just wanted to help," he said simply. "I didn't think about reward or recognition. I just wanted to keep it alive." The Emperor's eyes narrowed, then softened. "Humph. Most people in this court would have seen a dragon hatchling and thought only of power or profit. You acted differently. You acted with compassion." Ember chirped softly, almost as if acknowledging the Emperor's words. It fluttered its tiny wings, sending another gentle glow through the hall. The courtiers murmured in amazement. Even the Emperor's guards, trained to fear unknown creatures, seemed captivated by the hatchling's presence. Then, something extraordinary happened. Ember stepped forward, no longer clinging to Caden, and raised its tiny head toward the Emperor. It emitted a pulse of warmth directly toward him, not in aggression, but in recognition. The Emperor's eyes widened slightly. He had never seen a dragon interact with a human, and with him, so willingly. "This creature understands you," the Emperor murmured. His voice was calm, but it carried a note of wonder. "It does not fear you, it trusts you, and it trusts this human." He gestured for Caden to step closer. "Come forward. Tell me, Janitor, what do you intend to do with it?" Caden straightened, keeping Ember close. I will care for it, Your Majesty. I want to help it grow and survive. I never intended to keep it a secret to defy you. I only wanted to protect it." The Emperor studied him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It was a rare expression, warm yet commanding. "Bravery and compassion in a janitor. Most of my court would not understand such qualities. You have earned my respect." The hall fell silent. Courtiers exchanged shocked glances. A simple janitor, an ordinary human, had impressed the Emperor with patience, intelligence, and care. No one had expected this outcome. "Very well," the Emperor continued. "This creature shall not be harmed. It will remain under my protection, and so will you." He paused, then added, "You shall be recognized for your actions. The Empire values courage and understanding, not just titles and rank." Caden felt a mixture of relief and disbelief. Ember chirped happily, fluttering its wings and emitting a small pulse of warmth that brushed against the Emperor's robes. The Emperor laughed softly. "You are extraordinary, little one," he said to Ember. Then he turned to Caden. "From this day, you are no longer just a janitor. You are a guardian of rare creatures. Your task is to care for this hatchling and any others that may require your attention. Your loyalty, intelligence, and compassion are needed by the Empire." Caden's mouth opened in surprise. He had never imagined such an honor. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said humbly. Ember chirped in agreement, nuzzling his hand. The courtiers whispered among themselves, astonished at the Emperor's decision. Some were clearly envious, others were inspired. For once, compassion and courage had been recognized over rank and influence. The hall seemed to hum with a new energy, a sense of possibility that had not existed before. The Emperor leaned back in his throne, still observing Ember. "This creature is unique," he said. "It is rare, powerful, and intelligent. It represents potential beyond what many can imagine. Guard it well, Janitor, and show the Empire what humans and creatures like this can achieve together." Caden nodded, understanding the gravity of his new responsibility. He knew Ember's abilities were extraordinary, and he would have to learn to guide and protect the hatchling carefully. But for the first time, he felt that his efforts were truly appreciated. He was no longer invisible in the vast corridors of the Imperial Station. He had earned recognition, not through wealth or power, but through compassion and cleverness. Over the next few days, Caden and Ember were given quarters near the central hall, where the Emperor could observe them if he wished. Ember explored cautiously at first, then began showing its playful side. Caden taught it simple tricks, like following his movements, responding to commands, and even demonstrating its small powers safely. The Emperor watched from time to time, fascinated by the interactions. Ember's presence began to inspire the station's workers. Humans and aliens alike were intrigued by the hatchling, and they began to see Caden in a new light. The janitor, who had once been unnoticed, was now a figure of admiration. His intelligence, patience, and courage had changed not only Ember's life, but also the perception of humans in the Empire. One evening, Caden and Ember stood near the observation deck, gazing at the desert planet below. Ember perched on Caden's shoulder, wings fluttering gently. "We've made it this far," Caden said softly. "But the journey isn't over. We'll face more challenges. Together." Ember chirped, nuzzling his neck as if agreeing. Above them, the Emperor watched from a distance, a rare smile on his face. He knew that humans were capable of extraordinary deeds, often overlooked because of their humble status. Caden had proven that courage, compassion, and intelligence were qualities that could not be measured by rank or wealth. The Emperor understood that the future of the Empire might rely on such individuals, ordinary humans achieving extraordinary things. For now, Caden and Ember were safe, celebrated, and growing stronger together. But beyond the station, new challenges awaited. Challenges that would test their bond, their courage, and the limits of Ember's abilities. The legend of the Janitor and the Dragon Hatchling was only beginning, and the Empire would soon witness the remarkable power of human ingenuity, kindness, and bravery in ways no one had expected. The Imperial Space Station floated above Zorath 9, its towers reflecting the distant suns like glass and steel. The station was alive with movement. Workers hurried through corridors, ships docked and departed, and the hum of machinery never stopped. Among all this activity, one janitor and his small golden-red dragon hatchling were quietly changing the course of events in ways no one had expected. Caden had been officially named the Guardian of Rare Creatures by the Emperor. Though the title was new, the responsibility was real. Ember, his tiny dragon companion, had grown stronger, smarter, and more aware of the world around it. Its wings now flapped more steadily. Its glow could light up the darkest corners, and small bursts of heat could now melt thin metal, controlled under Caden's guidance. The Emperor had begun to take a personal interest in their training. Each day, Caden would bring Ember to the central hall or observation deck, demonstrating its abilities while ensuring the hatchling remained calm. The Emperor watched with fascination, sometimes smiling, sometimes silent, but always attentive. He began to understand that Caden's intelligence and compassion were as extraordinary as Ember's powers. Yet the Emperor was not the only one observing. Rumors of Ember's abilities had spread among the station's workers and even into the court. Some nobles envied the recognition Caden received. Others whispered that such power could be dangerous if uncontrolled. Caden knew vigilance was necessary. Every action could be watched, and every mistake could have consequences. One morning, a challenge arrived unexpectedly. The Emperor summoned Caden and Ember to the central hall. Guards opened a large chamber, revealing a platform where a set of obstacles had been arranged. The Emperor's voice echoed in the hall. "Guardian Caden," he said, "you have shown care and courage. Now we will see how well you and your companion work together. This trial will test intelligence, skill, and trust. Proceed." Caden studied the obstacles. They included narrow bridges of metal, swinging chains, and small gates that required precise timing to pass. Ember's eyes glimmered as it looked at the challenge. Caden crouched, whispering, "We can do this. Stay with me." The trial began. Caden stepped onto the first bridge, careful with each step. Ember followed, balancing carefully. A swinging chain approached, and Caden signaled Ember to leap. The hatchling's wings flapped, lifting it over the chain perfectly. Courtiers gasped as the tiny dragon demonstrated agility beyond what anyone expected. Next came a gate that required pressing a small panel while moving quickly. Caden held Ember gently, and the hatchling's claws pressed the panel, opening the gate. Together, they moved through the obstacles with precision, coordination, and intelligence. The Emperor watched silently, a faint smile on his lips. Finally, they reached the last platform, where a puzzle awaited. A series of levers controlled a metal door, and only the correct sequence would allow passage. Caden studied the levers, whispering instructions to Ember. The hatchling chirped and tapped the first lever, then another, glowing faintly as it emitted warmth when it detected the correct sequence. With careful guidance, Ember completed the puzzle. The door opened, and Caden stepped through, Ember at his side. The chamber erupted in applause. Even the Emperor rose, clapping slowly, his eyes shining with approval. "Impressive," he said. "You have shown intelligence, courage, and teamwork. The Empire will benefit greatly from guardians like you." Caden bowed humbly, and Ember chirped, its glow brighter than ever. The hatchling nuzzled Caden's hand, a sign of trust and loyalty. For the first time, the janitor felt truly recognized, not for rank or wealth, but for character and skill. After the trial, Caden returned to their quarters with Ember. He knew that challenges would continue, but he also felt a growing confidence. Ember was learning quickly, understanding not just commands, but intention and trust. Together, they could face almost anything. Days later, another trial arrived. But this time, it was unexpected. A small ship appeared near the station, carrying emissaries from a distant planet. They had heard rumors of the Emperor's dragon and wanted to see it for themselves. Some spoke of its intelligence, others of its powers, and many questioned whether a human could truly guide such a creature. The Emperor allowed the visitors to observe Ember and Caden, curious to see how they would interact. Caden stepped forward calmly, Ember perched on his shoulder. The visitors watched as Caden guided Ember through a series of exercises, lifting small objects, navigating a maze, and demonstrating its controlled bursts of heat and light. One emissary, a tall alien with shimmering skin, stepped forward skeptically. "Surely this creature is dangerous," they said. "A human guiding it is foolish." Caden met their gaze calmly. "Ember is intelligent," he said. "It understands me because we trust each other. Strength alone is not enough. Patience, care, and intelligence matter too." Ember chirped softly, responding to Caden's voice. The alien blinked, surprised. "It listens. It truly listens," they said, stepping back. "We have much to learn from humans." The Emperor smiled. "Indeed," he said. "The janitor has shown wisdom beyond his station. Courage, compassion, and intelligence are what guide greatness, not just power." The visitors left with newfound respect for humans, and the story of Caden and Ember spread across the Empire. They became a symbol of what humans could achieve with intelligence, care, and determination. Even other creatures on the station began to respond to Caden, recognizing him as a protector and leader. Weeks later, the Emperor called Caden to a private chamber. "The trials you have faced are only the beginning," he said. "There are other creatures, rarer and more powerful, that may arrive at this station. Your role is not just to protect Ember, but to guide and protect all rare beings under our care. Your decisions will shape the future." Caden nodded solemnly. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will do my best." The Emperor's gaze softened. "I trust you, Caden. You have proven that humans are capable of remarkable things: courage, intelligence, and care. The Empire must see this truth." Ember chirped softly, pressing against Caden's neck. It had grown significantly, and its wings now spanned wider than before. Small sparks of heat danced from its claws, but they were controlled, a sign of the training Caden had carefully guided. Caden spent the next weeks preparing for new arrivals. He studied the station, designed new enclosures, and created spaces where rare creatures could thrive safely. Ember helped eagerly, exploring new areas and learning commands. Their bond grew stronger with every day, every exercise, and every shared moment. Then, one evening, an alert rang through the station. A small craft had approached, carrying a rare creature known for its intelligence and speed. Caden moved quickly, guiding Ember and preparing the enclosures. The hatchling chirped, sensing the excitement and tension. When the new creature arrived, Caden met it calmly, showing care and patience. Ember observed closely, understanding Caden's approach and responding with gentle curiosity rather than fear. The Emperor watched from his balcony, proud of the janitor who had risen beyond expectation. The new creature adapted quickly under Caden's guidance. Ember's presence seemed to reassure it, and soon the two creatures interacted safely, exploring each other's abilities under careful supervision. The court whispered in awe. A human janitor had trained one dragon, and now he was guiding multiple rare beings successfully. Caden realized that his life had changed completely. He was no longer invisible. The Emperor's recognition had given him authority, but it was his patience, intelligence, and care that truly commanded respect. Ember had grown strong, intelligent, and loyal, and together they were a symbol of what humans could achieve. The story of Caden and Ember spread throughout the Empire, inspiring humans and aliens alike. It showed that bravery, compassion, and cleverness could create change, even in a world of strict rules and hierarchy. The humble janitor had become a legend, guiding rare creatures, influencing the Emperor's decisions, and proving that humans were extraordinary. As Caden and Ember stood on the observation deck, looking at the vast desert planet below, Caden whispered, "We've come far, Ember, but this is only the beginning. Together we can face anything." Ember chirped, wings fluttering, glowing warmly as if acknowledging the promise. Above the desert sands, the Imperial station floated silently, but inside, a janitor and a dragon hatchling were quietly changing the Empire. They had proven that courage, intelligence, and compassion were as powerful as any weapon. And as the stars shone above, the future promised adventures, challenges and opportunities for a human and his dragon to leave a mark on the universe that no one would ever forget. Caden's life had transformed from simple janitor to guardian of rare creatures. Ember, once starving and weak, had become strong, intelligent, and loyal. Together they had passed trials, impressed the Emperor, inspired the court, and begun a new chapter in the Empire's history. And though challenges lay ahead, Caden and Ember were ready. The bond between human and dragon had become legendary, and the Empire would never forget the janitor who saved a hatchling, and the dragon that changed the hearts of all who saw it.